everyone, my name is Aaron, and welcome to another episode of Save It for the Cast. Today, we have two brand new guests for this wonderful episode. We have two friends from our proverbial game night crew, as I have dubbed us. We have Courteney over here on a ghost train. You want to say hello?
Sure. Hello.
and we have Jeremy over here on a scrambler.
Howdy.
And I am resting on the ground because I was on the pirate ship ride and it detached and crashed on the pavement. So I'm just laying on the pavement. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to start this next episode. Today is a very different episode of Save It for the Cast. We have, for the first time, someone who is not myself that will be telling the main story. And that is Courteney, who has quite possibly the most horrifying medical story I've ever heard in my life. And I mean, that's saying something considering I'm 29, going to be 30 in 2021. So that's pretty impressive. And then we'll also introduce them before we get to that. And we have a couple other side stories. I think Jeremy said he also has another story that will lead in from Courteney's main story. So before we get into any of that, though, everyone else knows the drill who's been listening to these episodes and stuff. So we will get everybody acquainted with you two right here. So Jeremy, I first met you back in, I believe it was July or August of 2018, right?
Nah, that's a while ago.
Yeah, that was like the first year we started doing game nights was
was it
that
long ago?
Yeah, it was like the summer of 2018. And I don't know, how did you meet Zach and MK?
I met them through one of Kylie's coworkers when they moved to.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense now because I know this was the coworker. I'll censor her name if she doesn't want it in here. She was the one who was supposed to come to our annual bar crawl like every single New Year's. And we thought she was imaginary because she never showed up and we didn't know she existed for the longest time. Okay, so then that's how you met them. And then we all became acquainted through like game nights and stuff.
Yep, game nights and D&D and whatnot.
The only reason why I had like a specified time reference was because I remember when Zach and MK moved into their new place, I was leaving one night and I looked up in the sky and it was like a full moon or almost like a full moon. And I was like, this would be a good picture. I'm going to take a picture. So I have a picture of the full moon from like August of 2018. And I knew that it was roughly around that time. I think that was the second game night though. So, but yeah, we met through game nights and have been palling around ever since.
Feels like so long ago.
We're old. We're getting
all the years just blend together now.
And the other guest we have on the show today, I should say tonight, because this is the first night episode of Save It for the Cast, is Courteney. And you and I met, well, it's interesting because we went to the same school, but I don't think we ever knew each other through school.
I don't think so. Like I've heard your name around, but we never knew each other.
Yeah, I always thought that was the case because your name always seemed familiar. But the first time we ever met in person was at an annual bar crawl that we do for New Year's. And I didn't know this until years later, but I don't know how much you remembered of that night. So
I remember most of it, but yeah.
Okay. You at least remember meeting me that night.
Yes, I do remember that.
That was the night, for people who don't know, it actually ties in. That was the night Eric and I went to the WWE house show in Albany. And then after we went to that show, we went to the bar crawl. So you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's an earlier episode of the show. So hopefully you'll hear about that then. But yeah, we've been friends ever since that. And then I don't think we talked or met officially again until like the whole game night crew started up and becoming a thing like in summer of 2018.
Yeah, I think so.
But now we're always together for game nights, both virtual and in person. We go do semi-annual egg drops together as a group, and we do other fun shenanigans like that.
Reigning champion right here.
That is true.
Currently the one and only egg drop that we've been able to complete.
Yeah, the pandemic really screwed things over with the second annual egg drop. We'll see. Hopefully it clears up so we could do one this year. I'd be looking forward to it. I have some good designs. But yeah, so that's introductions for the two of you. So officially, welcome to the show. Now, I figured before we get into the main story, I have a side story that kind of parlays into the story that Courtney will tell. Mine is not nearly as horrific, but it's still, what's the word I'm looking for? This story's going to make me sound like a dumb child, and I am on some levels to this day still, but I promise I wasn't as dumb as this story is going to make me sound. So I'll just get right into it. When I was 3 or 4 years old, I was a pretty rebellious youth. I didn't like to follow the rules. I don't want to say I was a rule breaker, but I was definitely like a rule shaker. I always like to shake things up and go against the grain. So one day I was eating a Hershey Kiss. And for those of you that are not familiar, I don't know who wouldn't be. I would hope both of you have had them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they're basically these little chocolate candies that are in the shape of, I guess, a really pointy chocolate nipple.
That's actually a great way to describe them.
Yeah, or like a smooth poop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. If you flattened out like the poop emoji, that's exactly what it would look like.
If they make them by like some machine that like poops them out, I have no idea. I'll have to contact the Hershey company and see how they're made. Anyway, they come in these wrappers that are primarily made of like, I don't know, some kind of foil. I don't know if it's like appropriately tin foil or whatever, but I remember in school, like kids used to ball them up and then they would, or like fold them and they would put them like with a rubber band and shoot them. And like you could really hurt people with like those wasps or whatever. Anyway, when I was a kid, my mom always told me that I had to throw away my garbage. I don't remember having a bad habit of like not throwing away my garbage or anything, but I remember this one day she reminded me, and I didn't want to use the garbage. So I got the bright idea of balling up this Hershey Kiss wrapper and sticking it up my nose. Now, it's not.
Oh boy.
I promise I'm not as dumb as that story may make me sound. It was definitely more rebellious. But what ended up happening was, I don't know if you've ever had something small get stuck up your nose, but you panic. And
absolutely. Not talking from experience or anything, I swear.
And I tried to get it out with my finger, which didn't go well. And it ended up getting shoved way up into my nasal cavity. And eventually I started to like bleed out of my nostril. I think it was my right nostril. Now, here's the other thing. I also later was diagnosed in life with a deviated septum, and it's in my right nostril. So I don't know if that was because of this Hershey Kiss wrapper incident, or if I was just born with that. I'd like to think it's a little column A, a little column B. But I started bleeding out of my nose and my mom started freaking out. She's like, "What happened? What did you do?" And I said, "It's a candy wrapper." And she's like, "Well, we got to get him to the emergency room." So she drove me as fast as she could to the emergency room, which this will be censored, but just so you two have a reference, it was and that was where I was born. And that's where I thought I was going to die when I had a Hershey Kiss wrapper up my nose. So I went into, I guess it was like some type of operating room or ER room or something like that. And my doctor, his name is Dr. He was a pediatric doctor in the area. He just comes in and he takes a pair of pliers, sticks them up my nose, takes the little tin foil out, throws it in the trash and said, like pats my mom on the shoulder and goes, "Okay, get him out of here before he gets sick," or something like that. And like made it into this nonchalant ordeal. Here I am screaming because my nose is bleeding. My mom's like, "Why would he do that? What's the matter with you?" And so that's my medical story. The reason why I wanted to open with that though is because the story that Courtney is about to tell is kind of similar to that, but it is so much more horrifying. and I still haven't recovered from the first time you mentioned this. We've never heard this story, just for clarification. Jeremy and I have not heard it. And this is the first time it will be told to our ears, but we know the headline. Like if this was a headline in a newspaper, we know the title of this article. So Courtney, go ahead and take it away with the snake story.
All right. So apparently quarantine makes people do really weird things. You get a little bored.
This was recent.
Yeah, it was
Wait,
recent.
yeah, I thought this was like something. Okay.
Like a couple months ago, recent, like a year ago, kind of.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
It does. It does.
So we've learned in the hospital that people, mainly like men in their like 40s and 50s, get really into like butt stuff.
Oh no.
And so we've had a lot of patients with issues like that, stuff getting stuck and whatnot. But the worst one so far, we had a guy come in and all he would tell us was, my snake won't come back out. And we're just like, what do you mean your snake won't come back out? And he's like, well, usually when he goes in, he comes back out. And it's just, okay. And like the whole time I'm just hoping like that he doesn't mean what I think he's meaning. But after some prying, he eventually told us that he would swallow his pet snake. And a few hours later, he would come out the opposite end of his body. And this time, he took in his snake, and a couple days went by, and his snake had not come back out.
Days?
So, yeah, it was
Why
like
would
2
you
days.
wait days?
He was, I don't know, maybe this.
I mean, I can see like being embarrassed, but like.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so his pet snake didn't come back out this time. So we had to do some x-rays on him to see if we could locate his pet snake.
And how did they come back normal? I guess like
did you find like an outline of a snake inside of him?
We located his pet snake.
Oh no.
So what I'm picturing is like when you take an x-ray, you're just seeing like the muscle walls of people's like organs and bones and stuff like that. Did you see like a little snake skeleton inside?
Yeah, so snakes have like little vertebra.
Yeah, they have like the little tiny ribs.
So if you looked like down in his intestines, it was like, there's some extra tiny little bones in there. And they were still like in snake form.
Oh my God.
So yeah, his snake didn't make it through this time, unfortunately.
Wait, so the snake died?
I don't know if it died or if it was just sleeping. I wasn't part of the extraction process.
The extraction team.
Do you know if they like extracted it as one piece though? Like, did they actually just pull a snake out, or was it like digested?
Well, when I came to work the next day, he was still like in the hospital. So I don't know if they were waiting for it to like make its way out because it had been in the past, or
if he's admitted for this, like. Okay, so first off, I have so many questions. And I mean, maybe some of these can be answered deeper in the story, but continue if there's any more to when you arrived that second day at work.
So pretty much we just like checked our patient tracker to see if he was still around or not, and he was. But he was no longer our patient, so we couldn't follow his story anymore after that.
Oh, good Lord.
You never thought to like go find someone and be like, yo, I have a question for you.
What's up with his snake?
Well, yo, what happened to Snakeman?
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So we'll do like a quick backtrack. For those of you that don't know, Courteney works in the medical field, and I've never personally heard a story as insane as this in the medical field. Like, I have other people that I know who work in medicine, whether they be doctors or physical therapists or nurses, just people who have probably seen some shit, both literally and figuratively. And when you first mentioned this, I stood up out of my chair, put my hands on my head, and I had to take a lap around the room because I could not believe what I was hearing. And it was just absolutely awful. But nevertheless, I do have some questions. So since you actually got to see the x-rays of this snake, how big was the snake? That's the first one.
Well, so, like a garden snake?
Yeah.
It was a little bigger than that, but not like a python. Like, it was like your average pet snake.
Okay.
Did he say what kind of snake it was?
He could have, but like I don't know my snake
Okay.
species to.
You're not a snakeologist here.
I'm not a snakeologist. No.
That's okay. Because when you first tell that story, it immediately, and I don't know, I'm sure like maybe we thought this and maybe the audience would think so too. My head immediately goes to like big python, like, thicker snake. So like it's just horrific because I just picture now I picture some dude swallowing a snake whole. And if this snake is multiple feet long, like that's not an easy feat.
Well, like, just think of, was it peristosilus? Is that the medical term there for when your throat is like helping push food down?
You're close.
Yeah. What is it? I don't know the proper term.
Peristalsis, but yeah, close enough.
Oh, okay. I knew it was something like that. But like that snake is long. It's like it would be like trying to swallow like a hot dog whole. Like it wouldn't go down easily. It would like when your muscles contract, like you'd be hitting that thing and it would still be moving. You would literally feel that going all the way.
Yeah, you'd have to be really good at holding your breath. But I mean, like, the snake can move too, so he's like chugging along on his own.
It's gotta be one of the weirdest feelings ever.
Also,
apparently he liked it.
How did the snake not like freak out or do anything? Like, how does he get the snake to be like, all right, down the hatch and just like drop it in?
Yeah. Well, that's what they were worried about, is that like the snake started eating his way out or something and was just gonna like, alien his way out of this guy's abdomen.
Oh my goodness.
Now see, isn't that funny? I didn't even think about that as a possibility until you just brought it up.
Yeah.
That's
that's kind of the major concern.
I now have a question about like snakes biology. Like, how does the stomach acid not just eat this thing?
I guess the scales are good. I don't know.
I just picture, or just like, since it's a living being going into you, it's just like, all right, gotta get out of here. Things are bad.
Right. Swims his way right out.
Yeah, like finds the closest hole.
I guess on my scale, I didn't even know I had this list until just now. On my scale of stomach acid versus snake skin or snake scales, I guess snake scales would win in this. I
guess so.
Who would ever think that we would ask that? Now, the important other question that I had, and I don't remember if you mentioned it at the beginning of the story or if this was just me remembering it from the game night, was how many times had he done this before? Because you had said he did this not regularly, but he had at least attempted this before this snake no-show incident.
We didn't really go into details about that, but my guess is like he probably did it 2 or 3 times. I'm hoping it wasn't more than that.
Oh, well, yeah, because I guess like if he had done it enough to recognize that this was an abnormal event, that the snake wasn't coming out, right, he would know at least, yeah, I got to go to the hospital for this. Now, here's the other thing. So that just brings up a whole other can of worms. That means out there, somewhere in the archives of this hospital paperwork, there is a "why are you here" line filled in with "my snake didn't come out."
Yeah, pretty much.
I would love to see a photocopy of that paperwork if like maybe 70 years down the line, like
it's all redacted though.
Yeah, it's all redacted. It's eligible to be destroyed and stuff. And it would be like, okay, man ate snake, snake no come out. Like,
yeah. Well, the best part is like we just get the triage note. So all it says is foreign body ingestion. So it's just like, I wonder what this could be. So it's always a guessing game.
Yeah, like I have some friends in the medical field, and he was an OR tech, so he was always just like doing the instruments and stuff. And the stuff that he would tell me that they would find in people, and kind of like you said, they'd either ingest it or like sit on it in some way.
Sit on it. That was in quotes, by the way.
Yeah, definitely sit on it in quotes. But like, I've read online of gerbling, but not of like, what do you call it?
Snaking. This is a new thing.
Is that like snaking, like cleaning out your pipes and when you're plumbing, like, hey, we got to send the snake down to pull it out. And like this guy's just like, I got to clean out everything. Let's just send it down the hatch.
Oh God, I hope not.
God, this is one way to classify that, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like plumbing.
I feel like putting that on paperwork, though, like foreign body obstruction, that is severely underselling it. Like,
Yeah.
it is underdressing the problem by a mile, even more. Like, the other question I wrote down was you already answered how long ago was this? How scared was this person? Like, was this dude like nonchalantly coming in like, yeah, my snake didn't come out, or was he like, I need help?
No, he seemed pretty chill about it. I don't know. He was, a little different to begin with. So
I mean, yeah, I can see that.
he didn't seem super concerned. He just wasn't he wasn't a good historian. I think he was a little embarrassed.
Oh, I would be. I would be like, here I am. I'm telling a Hershey Kiss up the nose wrapper story on this same podcast, and I'm embarrassed about telling that. I can only imagine about ingesting a snake and pooping it out eventually, or having it slither out, whatever the term is. And I would be embarrassed for him.
Yeah, but no, he was pretty chill.
Did you ever ask, like, he said it comes out the other end, right? Every time? He didn't say, like, oh, it comes back up, like out my throat or anything. He's always said it came out the other end.
He said it comes out the other end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine the feeling. It's like, you know how sometimes you'll eat like really cold like ice cream, like it just seems colder, and like you can feel it going all the way down, and you get like that weird cold spot that you can feel. And I hate that. I can't imagine, like, there's the people in like China and Japan, they do the goldfish thing where they just eat a live goldfish.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, okay, like it's still smaller. Like, yeah, you probably could feel it a little bit, but like it's not going to last too long once it gets in there. But like a snake, like even if it's just like a regular garden snake, like it's still a foot long, probably, if not longer.
Yeah.
And you just, like you're going to feel that thing going in.
I forgot about that whole goldfish tradition thing until you just mentioned it. And now I'm having like an existential crisis for fish. Like, we've already talked. I've never owned a dog or a cat. I've only owned a lizard, fish, and a hamster. And 2 out of these 3 things that I've owned as pets, now we've talked about being inside of people. And I don't know how I can recover from this now. Oh, God. I think I had another question here. What was the other thing? Oh, okay. So some of your coworkers, was this like also the craziest thing that they've ever heard? Or like, was this just like another run of the mill, something stuck inside somebody case?
I definitely say it was in the top of weird things, but especially with how long some of my coworkers have been in the field, we have a whole list of odd things going into orifices.
You have like a hospital pool of, all right, what's the weirdest thing that's ever been inside of somebody? And then
we do have a running list of like weird or dumb things people come in for. And that definitely made the list.
So is the snake the top of the list though?
Probably, I would say so. At least the most disturbing.
Yeah.
Maybe
definitely.
Not the dumbest thing, but the most disturbing.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. I wouldn't classify this as dumb. I would classify this as more reckless, or just more disturbing is the perfect word for it. I really don't know how else to classify it, but I can't even believe, like, I don't do well with medical stuff anyway. So I guess a story like this, when you first mentioned it to us, it was triggering me to the point where I felt quote unquote woozy.
Were you imagining the snake going down?
Not really. I can't.
Because that's the first thing I think of every time.
I think the running thing, the funny thing that I have to mention now is I can't swallow pills. This man is swallowing a snake.
You're not the only one.
I know. There's like sword swallowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
you just gotta practice.
Well, the whole thing is you straighten everything out, right? That's why like sword swallowers put their head back and then go straight down. So like, if you practice, it's the same. You're not gonna touch anything because it's like, just plugging in something and unplugging it. Like it just fits the holes and comes right back out. Like that's why I want to know. Like, did this guy like put his head back and just like I said, down the hatch with you, or did he like just like put it in his mouth like we're looking at the cameras right now and just like and like had it slither on in? Like the feeling is just my thing. Like I'm a texture guy when I eat. Like I'll eat anything, but if the texture's weird, like no, I can't imagine a living, moving thing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what also upsets me the most, and this has been mentioned on a past podcast too, I wouldn't say I have like a diagnosed case of OCD or like germophobia or whatever, but I'm definitely like a germaphobe. I can't even imagine the amount of diseases this guy avoided getting, miraculously, I might add, because like aren't snakes like not healthy creatures for humans to own? Like, shouldn't you like wash your hands every time you hold like a lizard, a snake, stuff like that?
I was gonna say, isn't that a thing with lizards where like you get like salmonella and like some weird like just dirt stuff like comes off? And
well, and that's the other thing I also forgot to mention, and I'm really amazed I didn't write this down as a question. If this snake was in this dude for days, that snake has gotta be excreting some stuff.
Oh yeah, he's got snake poop in him, definitely.
Yeah.
It'll come out.
Oh, but you
well,
said
I mean, depending on when the snake did that, it's already in his intestines, right?
But you said that so nonchalantly. Oh, it'll come out.
I mean, it's in the right spot.
As long as it didn't happen at the start of it, so you taste it or something, like you don't even know. Your body's just gonna either get rid of it or use it for something.
That is so nasty to think about, because I don't know. We all are. I would guess be ready to willingly admit we are not snakeologists. I cannot even imagine. Like, I know what snake poop looks like. Do you? Do both of you?
Yep.
I can't say I do.
Okay, it looks bad. Let me just put it to you that way. Picture like bird poop on steroids.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's pretty much like what snake feces would be like. So I just can't. I mean, sure, this is a smaller snake, so I guess he's got that going for him. But in a situation like this is wildly, wildly disgusting and disturbing.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that.
It was a weird day, to say the least.
just that day. That was a weird one. Well, you've sent over some other stuff about like or not sent over, talked with us about what was that one incident with somebody with a massager?
Oh yeah. So this one wins like, well, no, it doesn't win. We had another good one. But this person came in for back pain after using a massager. They came to the ER because they thought they were having a heart attack after using a back massager.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
But it was just weird, like, to hear, like, you had told us, this person came in for a massager, and it's like, which kind? Like, that was our first, like, wait a minute here, hold up.
Yeah, this one wasn't stuck anywhere. It was just dumb.
Pain-inducing, yeah.
I'm assuming she just like, or whoever it was, it could be he or she, was just like, oh, I had it on the highest setting and now it hurts. It's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because like there's those like athletic ones they have now. Has anybody seen those ones that like, it literally looks like it's just punching you.
Oh, yeah.
Over and over again. And they're like, oh, great for athletes. And I'm like, that looks painful.
It's also like it's also in a convenient gun shape, so you hold it like a gun, but it's just like it's like little fists that repeatedly punch you over and over again. It just reminds me of like
when you're like mixing cake or something. Like it's the same shape as one of those things where it's just like a thing at the end with a ball that's just pounding.
Now I just want to make a commercial for that someday and be like, do your muscles need a good battering? Well, try our muscle batterer. Well, I don't know, name pending.
Do you need a good pounding?
Well, buy our pound gun and it'll take you to Pound Town.
But actually, the name of the company is Pound Town.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You get a pound gun from Pound Town.
Yep, Pound Town Inc.
Yeah, that's what you call maximizing an opportunity. That's good right there.
We'll have to trademark that.
Yes, so other people can't. So anybody who's listening, if we haven't trademarked it yet,
go buy that domain right now.
Yeah, we call dibs.
I'm sure there's not any inappropriate stuff on poundtown.com.
Not at all.
Yeah, none whatsoever. Young kids, don't Google it.
Don't Google whitehouse.com either.
What?
Now I'm intrigued.
You don't know that one?
No.
Oh my God. So this is a new story. When I was in high school, I guess it was probably middle school actually, but it was when using like the internet to do research was becoming more mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had an English teacher that was like, hey, I'm going to show you how to like use Google. I think Dogpile was the big one back then. Like everybody was.
Dogpile.
Yeah, Dogpile. That was a search engine back in the day.
I've never heard of that.
Oh,
Nope.
yeah, this was when Google was, I think, still tiny, but you know, so everybody's going through and the like, this is how you do stuff. Like you can search for, and you know, they type in like the White House. And back then there wasn't like the, you know, SEO search engine optimization that there is now, where it's like all the buzzwords get you to the top. If you type in White House, it just searches for White House, and like the first thing that pops up, so of course it's whitehouse.com, and they click on the link, and it's not like the president White House. The White House was like a porn studio that somebody had set up and got the domain name to. So when you went there, it was just a porn site. And of course, they're like, you got to be careful what you search. And of course, you know, all of us now are dying because here's this teacher just like click and you have whitehouse.com.
Yeah. And then this is up on the screen being displayed to kids.
For a bunch of young kids.
Brilliant. I will say this, brilliant marketing by the porn company, because I wonder how much traffic. So like now I'm picturing like, I don't know, maybe a Senate meeting or a House meeting, and they're going through like a case or something like that. And they're like, now, if you direct your attention over here to whitehouse.com, and all of a sudden, like they pull this up and they're just like, wait, no, click off. That's bad. You know, that could be some horrific source material if you are not expecting it.
Yeah, I think Dick's Sporting Goods had a problem with that too at one point.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Like if you type in
people typing
Dicks.com, you're not going to go to Dick's Sporting Goods. I think you might now, but I want to say back in the day, that was one that they were like, oops.
Maybe.
Who now I'm curious, was the guy or girl who created Dick's Sporting Goods, like, were they naming it Dick's because that was their like name or nickname, or like their father's name or their husband's name or whatever? Or was this just like a catchy name? We got it. Dick's Sporting Goods. Like, you know, come buy our bats and balls here at Dick's. So Jeremy, segueing on from these other stories. Now, you had said that you had another story that could parlay off of Courtney's main story.
I feel like I should have actually introduced this beforehand, now that we are here where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But it also involves a snake and a crazy person.
Oh no.
So, you know, growing up, my grandma on my mom's side lived in another state. So, you know, every once in a while we do like a week trip where we'd get in the car and it would take us forever to get there, but we'd all drive out, spend a week there, drive home. And I had an aunt that lived in the area that my mom was really close to. And, you know, she was single like her whole life, and was dating this guy at the time who was like an ex-military. Like, he told us he was like a special ops, like ranger or something. I don't know exactly what he was, but you know, he was an ex-military guy that made sure, you know, he was in the military, and he did some stuff. He was one of those guys.
Oh, so he was one where he wanted you to know, like, I've seen some shit, and you don't want to find out what type of shit I seen. Yeah.
And on this particular trip, my best friend growing up had come with me. And so like my grandma lived on this huge plot of land and owned like the woods all around it. And it was like kind of an old style farmhouse. I mean, you easily, for golf people out there, had about, I don't know, 150 yards of just open field in front of her house.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to just start on one end, hit it to the other end, you know, as young kids, and then go back and just like, I can hit it the farthest type of thing.
Yeah.
So we're there. My aunt shows up, and this guy pops out, and, you know, don't know him, haven't met him before. And he's just like, hey, do you guys mind if I, you know, hit the ball with you? You know, like everybody had their own ball, and, you know, so we're doing that. And, you know, he's telling us his stories about the military and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, all of a sudden there's a snake that's on the ground. And, you know, me and my friend are just like, whatever. It's like out in the middle of the woods. There's snakes everywhere. Who cares? Well, this guy chases it down, picks it up, and licks it from tail to head.
What?
Yeah.
Licks it?
Licks it. Like, he picked it up, turned his head, like, you know, sideways, and had the snake in front of him, and like licked it like the length of the snake's body.
Poor snake.
Ew.
And then like put it down and like, you better run away before I eat you.
That's disturbing too.
And no joke, I've known this guy at this time for like half an hour, 45 minutes. And me and my buddy just look at each other like, oh my God, this guy is insane. Like, absolutely insane. And then he goes on to some story about how, when you're out behind enemy lines and you eat whatever you can catch and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, dude, you're not behind enemy lines. You're back home.
And what is he trying to prove licking a snake? It's not like, was he trying to impress like you kids and be like, oh yeah, I'd eat this snake if I could, but instead of like just eating it in front of you?
I don't know. And that's the thing is like, did he mean like he would eat it raw, like still alive, kind of going into Courtney's story there? Or was he like, hey, I've eaten a snake before type of thing? But either way, like he just picked it up and licked it. And it was just like, it was creepy because it was somebody I had just met. It'd be like if I showed up to the first game night that we were at and I just like went up to Tesla and was like, ah.
Yeah, you just started licking a dog. Yeah.
And like that was essentially what happened is this guy just found a random animal and licked it.
Oh my God. I don't know what this guy's end goal was. Like if I was you in this scenario, I would not be impressed by a grown man in the military chasing down a snake just to lick it. Like I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And that's exactly what me and my friend did. We just like gave each other that look of just like, what just happened? Like this, like absolutely insanity. Like, and we weren't young. We were probably like, I think we were like 13, 14.
That was my next question. I was going to say, how old were you at the time?
It wasn't like I was like 6. It was like, I have no idea what's going on. This guy's just weird. Like we understood enough that like that was not normal.
Holy shit.
What kind of lick was it? Like a yummy lollipop lick or like a seductive lick?
Like if you were eating ice cream, you put your tongue out and you're like, like it was like one of those.
Like a melting ice cream cone kind of lick?
Yeah, like he had his tongue out of his mouth. It was like, licking the snake. No. It was just weird.
That's disgusting.
And again, it was only like, like a garden snake. It wasn't like this huge, like crazy looking snake. It was, 1.5 feet, 2 feet long, if that. But like, he just picked it up and was like, ah.
What type of flavor is snake? Like,
isn't that like that's gator, right? Tastes like chicken, they say all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't taste like chicken if you lick it, though.
Exactly. That's just going to taste like whatever mud the snake is crawling in. Like, I don't think snake scales particularly have a taste.
Yeah, I would assume, it's like, chicken or anything that humans eat. Like, you usually don't eat like the skin. Like you don't have the skin of a cow on your meat. Like you have the meat.
Yeah.
So like I'm assuming when people eat snake, it's the same thing that they like prepare it so it's just meat, or even fish. Like you don't eat fish scales.
No,
like you open it up and fillet it so you have just nice pieces of meat.
Okay, now my question is, what are stronger, snake scales or fish scales? That's the next test.
I know they use fish scales to help regrow skin for burn victims.
I have heard about that. Yeah.
Those are pretty interesting, cool pictures, but I don't know what's stronger.
That's like cutting edge. Yeah. Like medical technology where they're trying, because a lot of times skin grafts for burn patients and stuff, they can either be A, incredibly painful, B, become infected very easily, or C, not take. So then the person just goes through all of this for no benefit or whatever. But yeah. God.
But so, all right, let's put this into perspective, right? Are we talking like, rattlesnake in the desert where they're on like really rough land and, it's rocky. So like they probably have tougher scales than, other snakes, something that like a water snake, they're probably more designed to be smooth and like not as rough so they can move through the water easily. One of those probably has pretty tough scales. And also now that I'm thinking about it, I can only imagine like somebody trying to eat one of those. Like I'm saying, like it won't bite you, but just scale wise, those things look rough.
And I think the other reason why the snake stories freak me out a little bit more is it just came back to me. My grandmother, who lived downstate from us, she had these neighbors that had a pet snake. And the snake one day was no longer there.
Oh, boy.
And that sounds ominous because it is. They didn't harm the snake. They were concerned, like, where the hell did this snake go?
It just got out of its cage.
Yep, out of its cage. And it just never appeared. I don't know if it was in the house, still in the house, left the house. Your guess is as good as mine.
I mean,
and it was a big snake. It was like an anaconda style snake, but like I don't know if pygmy anacondas are a thing or just like whatever a smaller classification of anaconda.
Aren't like pythons? They're like the same idea, right? They have the jaws that are really strong and they don't poison anything. They wrap it up to kill it. So I think those are usually what people have for pets. Are like those
yellow
and goldish color python things. I think they're pythons.
Like if you Google like a typical like snake, what would be the color? Like you would expect it to be like maybe black with brown and maybe like some like greenish like in it, or maybe not green.
Usually I don't know. I guess for me, whenever I think of snake, I think of like yellowish or orangish, like those like the colors that blend in with the earth, right? That's their whole defense. They blend in with stuff. So you're looking at like browns, yellows, oranges.
Yeah, so I just Googled a python, and this is the picture that came up. This was like the snake. So like that. If you guys can go to the general chat and see that. So yeah, it was kind of something like that. And a pretty big snake like that. So when Courtney, you were telling that snake story, and when I was picturing a dude swallowing a snake, like that was it.
Yeah, it was not that kind of snake.
Okay, yeah, because that would be way, way too big. I'll include
That'd be
this.
a bit much.
Yeah, I'll include this picture in the YouTube version of the podcast. So if you're just in case you're curious about all this snake talk, there you go. Holy shit, man. This is just, it's a wild podcast for sure. All right, so segueing on from there, I have a random card here that both of you chose before we started recording this episode of the podcast. And I always figured this is like a nice, easy way to like end the show. Mostly because it's just, easy to go over, to read off of a card, to talk about and stuff like that. I did want to go into some more stories and stuff, but at the very least, we'd probably be here for like an hour and a half if we kept on going. So we can either talk about those in another podcast or offcast or something like that. So I'm going to read, I don't know if either of you have ever heard of this, but I bought this years ago for a YouTube video and they were never used, but it's called Chuck Klosterman's Hypotheticals, 50 Questions for Insane Conversations. And what I had both of you pick was the names of these scenarios on these cards that will be read to you. But yeah, I'll read you the scenario. You will react to it, and then we'll talk about it. We can discuss.
The conversation we already had wasn't insane enough for you?
I mean, it was, but I guess it just goes along with the theme of the insanity of the episode. So this one is called The Mind Killer, and both of you picked this one out. So if you're ready, I'll read you the scenario. So here we go. Both of you become friends with a charismatic Spanish insurance salesman who claims to be a mystic. At first, you think he is just an interesting weirdo, but then a mutual acquaintance mysteriously dies in his sleep, and your Spanish friend tells you, "I killed that guy. I killed him with my mind." You find this disturbing and inappropriate, much like a lot of other stuff on this show today, but you decide to let it go. 2 weeks later, an unpopular local politician dies in his sleep. "I killed that man too," says your Spanish friend. "I killed him with my mind." This is annoying and tasteless, but once again, you let it go. The very next day, the Spanish insurance salesman calls you on the telephone and says, "Check the newspaper and see what I did with my mind. It's in the entertainment section." When you open the newspaper, you see an obituary for singer-songwriter Tori Amos, who I don't know who that is. The article says she mysteriously died the night before. Technically, this proves nothing, but you nonetheless confront your Spanish friend and tell him that you've grown tired of all of this hypothetical mind murdering and that you no longer want to be his friend. "Don't you dare shut me out of your life," he says. "You are my best friend. You must remain in my life. I'm not sure what I would do if you ever betrayed me." The question for both of you is, do you remain friends? And this is what the card says. Do you remain friends with this possibly delusional, possibly dangerous Spaniard? You have no physical proof that he can actually kill people with his mind. Either of you can answer in any order you so choose.
I'd probably keep him around just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case.
So you would continue to be friends with a deranged Spanish insurance salesman.
Well, I think he might murder me if I don't, so.
It's a good point. It goes back to, I guess, like a whole are you superstitious thing. And it's like, well, would you really want to risk it?
And see, I'm on the opposite fence of just like, I would just be like, all right, this guy is crazy. And if he does have these powers, at least it seems like everybody's been dying mysteriously in their sleep. So it's not like your life sucks for a while and then you die. It's just like, oh, I didn't wake up. Like, so like, at least it would be quick and it would be over. And now that, like this guy's just murdering people. And also it would be like one of those things like, are you an accomplice? Because like, if he is murdering people, right. And and you don't say anything, and then something comes out and it's like, this guy's been murdering people and here's all the people that know and haven't said anything. Like, what happens then? Like, now I am a part of the mind killer conspiracy.
I didn't even think about that.
And like, I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to like have my life scrutinized.
It's almost like guilty by association. Like if people see you hanging out with this Spanish insurance, and that is so tough for me to say. Holy shit. Spanish insurance salesman. Yeah, they're somehow in on it too.
Right? And like in that case, like you're just doing it to survive. Like, right? You're like, I can't not hang out with this person because he could just kill me with his brain. And like that would be, I don't know, for me, that would just be such a crappy way to live because you're essentially just like living, I guess you could say in fear, but like I don't think you would be fearing, but it's still like, all right, it's like, here's this person that you just have to include in your life if you like them or not.
So now I have an interesting caveat to this because these cards, I guess, can kind of be interpreted a little bit. And because there's obviously some gray area where you can either ask clarifying questions or something like that. I don't know the level of involvement that you would have to have with this person in your life. So I'm not necessarily saying I'm overly like superstitious or whatever, but I don't know, like Courtney said, I don't know if I would just want to risk it, like just in case this would be true. So part of me would be like, okay, well, this guy considers me his best friend. So what does that mean? Like if I ignore him and he's just like, hey, if you don't stop ignoring me, I'll kill you. But would he really end up wanting to kill you if you're his best friend?
I could see that. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. So like almost like rolling the dice of being like, yeah, you're not going to do shit because
you wouldn't kill your best friend.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. So I guess in that retrospect, I would. Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd probably say, yeah, I'll still be friends with you, but just remember, I'm not the one with anything to lose. It's you. Because if he kills me, I'm dead. I can't do anything about that. Like, yeah. All right, whatever. But yeah, so I would probably stay friends with this insurance salesman who happens to be a Spaniard.
If you want to get real crazy too, you could really set up like, some type of blackmail thing where it's like, I have that drop. So if something happens to me, they'll know, because he already seems like he's a little out there. So like, you could maybe play on that and just be like, yo, man, I'm just letting you know if something ever happens to me, your secret's getting out. And like people will know what you did and you're going to go to jail forever.
I like that. That's a clarification of you covering your tracks and basically saying like, hey, if anything happens to me, you know this is true. So now it almost flips. This guy is going to try to keep you alive because if you die, well, I guess would he know it? You would kind of have to tip your hand and you would have to reveal it.
Yeah.
So then you would just be at this eternal stalemate of you versus this insurance salesman of like, who's going to blink first?
You ever watch, there's an anime, Death Note. You ever watch Death Note?
Yeah.
Or know of it? Like,
I've never watched it, but I know of it.
It reminds me of that. So like one of the whole kind of big storyline for a lot of it is there's a book that you can write a name in and people die depending on how you write the name in there. And when that happens, they figure out like, essentially they narrow it down to like, a group of individuals, and it's kind of like that. It's like a cat and mouse game then at that point of like who's killing who's actually the bad guy, and like do you just let it keep happening?
Yeah. Well, Well, and that's the other thing. It doesn't say like this gives us no option to like potentially stop this either. So I guess would you have to be this person who is making sure like this insurance salesman doesn't go out and kill random people? Like, do you have to kind of keep them in check if you stay in their life or not? Like, you know, there's a lot of these extra questions that you could ask, but I don't know.
You can make a business out of it.
Oh,
He can be like a mind hunter, bounty hunter kind of guy. Use it for your own benefit.
I didn't think about that.
Start your own business. I'll sell you insurance.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What if you get him to sell insurance, like life insurance, and like with the caveat of like, we'll make sure it gets paid out.
But can you take out a life insurance policy on someone else? That's the thing.
No. So, right. You know, somebody's like, hey, I want to take care of my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
That person takes it. You have a like in quotes black market like insurance company. You know, it's a legit company, but like there's this. You have this guy now that's underlying, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, I'll get you this deal, and I'll make sure that payout happens. You know, because I can make it look like an accident. Like it's like, oh, I have a hitman that's going to do this, and like it'll look like an accident, and your family will get paid out, type of thing.
I just love the notion of. Like the name of his insurance company is like Black Market Insurance Company. Like we're legitimate, I swear.
I was thinking it would just be a Spanish insuranceman. Because they were very adamant that he was Spanish and sold insurance.
Yeah, that's the other thing. This was I don't know when this was actually created, but like I bought this back in 2016. So one of the other questions that was asked was, would you let a gorilla play for the Oakland Raiders in the NFL? And I was like, well, that just shows the age of this because the Oakland Raiders are no longer a thing. Like they moved to Vegas. Yeah. So it's like I've been holding on to this for years. And I was like, okay, I need a thing to use it on. And yeah, a podcast seemed like a good fit. So I just figured I'd ask, you know, my friends some random questions and see what comes out. There's some good ones in there too. I've got a couple were earmarked for other people. But did you guys want to hear another one while we were here?
Sure.
So we could do A Life in Film, The Meteor, or Kick in the Ribs.
I want to hear Kick in the Ribs because that was my second choice.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Kick in the Ribs. This is a second one. Actually, this is appropriate because the only other time I've done this on the show, we ended up doing two as well. So this could be a running theme. Okay, so this one is called Kick in the Ribs. Your best friend is taking a nap on the floor of your living room. Suddenly, you are faced with a bizarre existential problem. He or she is going to die unless you kick this slumbering friend as hard as you can in the rib cage. If you don't do this, he or she will never wake up. However, you can never explain your actions. If you later inform your friend that you did this to save his or her life, your friend will die from that. So you have to kick a sleeping friend in the ribs, and you can't explain why. And this is the question, since you cannot tell your friend the truth, what excuse will you fabricate to explain this seemingly inexplicable act?
So, did they say they just fell asleep, like randomly, like they're on the floor or something?
Yeah, like just picture, you know, you and your bro or your broette are hanging out, and they just like, oh, you know, we're watching this movie and I'm just going to fall asleep. Like, you know, I'm pretty tired, had a long day or whatever. And they just fall asleep on the couch or the living room floor or whatever. And then you are now faced with this question of, oh my God, they're going to die unless I kick them in the ribs. Presumably they're going to wake up. I don't know anybody who would sleep through a swift kick to the ribs, but you now cannot tell them the truth. Otherwise they will die. So what excuse do you tell them?
Well, again, it's like, you know, are they sleeping on like the floor? So say, you know, you're out camping, you know, right? They're in the way. I could see someone being like, you know, just kicking them and be like, yo, you're in the way. Get, you know, now the other caveat that I have, and I have a question for, is it says you have to kick them as hard as possible, right?
Yeah.
So are we saying it's going to break some ribs and like, am I going to have to take them to the hospital after, or are they just going to wake up?
Do you think you can kick that hard?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're the medical expert here. How hard is it to break some ribs?
I don't know. I haven't really kicked anyone in the ribs before.
Like, isn't like one of the things like when you're giving CPR, like you're going to break some ribs?
Yeah.
So like, I'm assuming it can't be that hard to break some ribs.
I don't know. I'm not a ribologist. I don't know. Maybe there could be some damage, but I guess like at that point, you'll know that it's worth it to, I guess, have a bruised rib or broken ribs or whatever just to keep them alive rather than just them dying right then and there.
Yeah, but what if you kicking them kills them? Like, you break the rib, puncture a lung, like you could have all sorts of things happen there.
You'd live through that. You're fine.
Yeah, some dude swallowed a snake. We'll be okay in this scenario. So I guess for the sake of this, we'll say that the kick would not kill them.
Okay. I mean, I absolutely would.
Yep.
And I don't even know I'd give a reason. I might just be like, what are you going to do about it?
So what would you tell them then?
Nothing. Just like kick them. And they're like, what the hell? Why'd you do that? Be like, I don't know, whatever. You were sleeping. I wanted to, play a prank. Maybe I took it too far.
If they're asleep, just play it off like it wasn't you, that they're just going crazy. Like, I didn't kick you. What are you talking about?
It wasn't me. What are you talking about?
Your ribs hurt? I don't know why.
The default picture that I have in my brain of convincing someone it wasn't me is, I don't know if either of you have seen The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
like where like he hits him with something and he goes, I don't know, wasn't me. Maybe it was him over here. Like, I always think of that as being the go-to. So I would play this off very differently. I'm a fan of professional wrestling.
Ooh.
So I would just say, and I don't know the card, I can't ask. Maybe I could. I'm going to try to get a hold of Chuck Klosterman and see if I could do a caveat to this card. But maybe in case I couldn't like do a swift kick, or maybe like if I could change it out for something else, I would do like either a Hulk Hogan leg drop onto their abdomen or like a frog splash off of the top rope. Like, I would maybe bring a stepladder into my living room and just be like, off the top rope. And then I would just like slam into them. And then, I would just be like, when they would be like, why the hell would you do that? Like, I was asleep. And I'd be like, I don't know. I was just practicing my frog splash and practicing my wrestling move.
All right.
I feel like that would be my go-to, but
I could see that.
And I mean, people who know me, they would be like on board with that because they know that I like wrestling and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be believable.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was just thinking of like somebody jumping off the top rope, leg out, just straight down.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I could even really get into it too and like videotape it and like play like entrance music. Like with Hulk Hogan, his entrance music was always like, I'm a real American. So all of a sudden, like, you just hear, like, you'd see me set up the camera, give a thumbs up, walk off screen, and you would just hear, I am a real American. And then I would just come in from off the screen and just double leg drop on their stomach and just be like, boom, got you, brother. And, we'd move on with our day.
And after that singing session, that is when the podcast got canceled.
It is. On this day, copyright strikes rain down from the heavens. Warner Brothers Media, WWE, they were all striking Aaron and Save It for the Cast and his friends that day.
They'll be after you.
They will be.
At least they don't know about our D&D.
Yeah. I guess that with the threat of copyright strikes, that's kind of like a perfect segue to end the podcast. So I guess we can call it quits for there. But yeah, thank you both for appearing on the show today. Thank you, Jeremy, for making your initial appearance on the cast here today.
Thank you. It was fun.
I'm glad.
Definitely have some more stories out there.
Oh, believe me, I have plenty more topics for everybody, and you both or anyone else can be on the podcast just to share them with the world. So, and just have a good time catching up. That's what we're here for. And Courtney, thank you again for being on and being the first other than me storyteller for the podcast.
Oh, no problem.
And so if anyone is curious about checking out the show, you can go to saveitforthecast.buzzsprout.com. That is BUZZSPROUT.com. That is the main hosting website. All of the places where we're featured on there and stuff. On social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's cast, username SaveItCast. I'm going to be posting on YouTube and on social media and stuff. A lot of the stuff that we talk about on the show is going to have pictures or videos that go along with it. So just in case you're curious as to having a visual component for the podcast, just to actually see what we're talking about, you can go and check out those posts there. And yeah, go ahead to subscribe and leave us 5 stars just so the show can grow and more people will know about our existence. So yeah, that'll about do it. Thank you both again, and we'll see you on the next episode of the show. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.